Good afternoon. I'm Dennis Galucki. Welcome to the 580th Imagine Greater Buffalo program and our 201st Imagine Buffalo YouTube production hosted by our Cultural Lifelong Learning Center, the downtown Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. We're glad you joined us today. Thank you. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. Now, before we get started, just a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted and your video turned off. If you have a question or comment, please type it into the chat box and we'll go through them at the end of the presentation as time allows. We are recording this program, so you can watch it again later on the Downtown Central Library's Facebook page and YouTube channels. And please, we hope you share the link with others. Now on to our featured speakers on this special day. Joining us today for the 2025 Imagine Greater Buffalo Recognition Award program, our co-founder of the Buffalo Maritime Center, Dr. John Montague, and president of the Buffalo Maritime Center's board, Anne Conable. John is professor emeritus at Buffalo State University and one of the founders of the Buffalo Maritime Center. His vision, research, and design skills have been essential in the Buffalo Maritime Center's community boat building project that recreated the Erie Canal boat Seneca Chief. Now that boat is in residence at Canal Side's commercial slip. This living museum icon of the Erie Canal Bicentennial launches September 24th to echo in 2025 the historic voyage across New York State to New York City taken 200 years ago as the canal was opened. John is also a maritime painter and illustrator, champion of Buffalo's waterfront development, and author historian. Anne Conable is president of the Buffalo Maritime Center's board of directors. She retired from the library system as manager of community engagement earlier this year after 15 years of service, including stewardship of the Imagine series and many other community programs. Her retirement is devoted to Buffalo's art sector and heritage organizations. So folks, let's welcome both John Montague and Anne Conable. John, take it away.
Okay, what I'd like to do is give you kind of an update on where we are with the development of this long-term project. First, I'd like to show you a bit of a PowerPoint here to kind of give you a background for some of those you who haven't been following us for the last 20-some years or so. And let me share my screen here. Share my screen. There we go. There. My we got that.
We see all of them.
You need to go to slideshow, John.
Yeah, okay. There we go.
There you go.
Got it? You got it now? All right. You lost it? We got it.
Yes. No, we got it.
Okay, you got it. All right. So let me first say a couple of words about the Maritime Center. As you know, we've been around for a long time. A lot of you have been involved with us for over the years, and even back when we were a part of Buffalo State College. But it's been one of our primary goals has been to be engaged with the public and to get as many people involved with understanding the waterfront, the maritime heritage of the area. We've developed outreach programs over the years. We, for example, started, here we go. I've got it. Yeah. Did you get that? All right. We started early on, way back in the early 90s. We started working with community groups, particularly disadvantaged kids in Buffalo who had really had no contact with the water. We started boat building programs with them, and over the years developed more and more sophisticated versions of this. Let me get the next one. Um, you're seeing these, aren't you? I mean, okay.
Yeah.
More and more sophisticated boats. We're working with the school for the deaf for a number of years with various high schools, various community organizations, and so forth. We also had over this whole period of time, we had adults come into the program who were interested in building boats. This was beyond our specific academic interests and so forth. They became an integral part of our kind of community. And over the years, we've built up an extraordinary group of people. These are some of the boats that we built, historic boats when the Erie Canal opened up, when they redug the Erie Canal. This was a perfect example for us to showcase boats that were used in this area historically. And our whole idea was to get as much interest in this as we possibly could. And that's been extremely successful and ongoing and expanding. Around the end of the 90s, which is now 25 years ago, we came up with the idea that Buffalo really needed some kind of an icon of its role in history as a harbor. We are a waterfront city. We exist here because of the water, because of the confluence particularly of the Erie Canal, Lake Erie, the Niagara River, and so forth. And this was exactly the subject matter that was most directly interesting to us. So we became very interested in all aspects of harbor development in terms of restoration, of the kind of the ambiance of canal side, of reconfiguring the harbor in a way that could be appreciated for its historical significance. So it occurred to me one day in a flash when I think I may have been looking at my garbage can and I saw the Buffalo seal that we have all of that stuff. We have the lighthouse, we have the lake, we have Canada across the way, we have sailboats on the lake, and down in the bottom is a canal boat. And that really encapsulates what the origins of Buffalo actually were. So what we needed to do, we've done all these other historic boats, we need to build a canal boat. And our thought was that canal boat could be a kind of have a device for sort of pulling people together, for focusing on sort of the essence of sort of our origin story. So that was something that seemed like a theme that might capture the public attention and draw people into a better understanding of the historical ambiance of this whole area. As you may remember, for the last 40 years, at least when I got here 40 years ago, the waterfront was kind of disorganized and going off in all directions. It had been neglected in large parts and so forth. So it's been a mission of ours to try to revive that as much as possible. So looking at that, the canal boat is missing here. So once the Erie Canal was dug out again, and we suddenly had reconstructed or revived or unburied, better the word for it, the gateway to the west, with that right at the end of the canal and commercial slipper it runs into the lake. That was actually the gateway to the west. So what a place to build a canal boat and bring people down, is right in canal side. So that was what was the origins of our idea to build a canal boat. Now it took a lot of research, actually years of research, to figure out how these boats were built. We went through all of that. We had teams of people that are working with us that were excellent researchers and historians and so forth. We finally got a set of plans that were actually buildable. We then had to kind of figure out how we're going to build that, how we're going to pay for that. Again, the community kind of came together to make this happen. A couple of people in particular just really sort of shot this whole thing ahead, saying, this is a great idea. We need to do this. Buffalo needs to do this. So we started building the boat, and you may have been following the progress of this over the years. As we started, actually, we broke ground in 2020, right in the middle of COVID. Not that there hadn't been a lot of preparation before this, but we were ready to go. We had a building built that was the state helped us get done right at that sacred site on the canal, and we started building. And we had to deal with a lot of naysayers early on, like who's going to want to come down there, who's going to go down there in the wintertime. Nobody goes down to the waterfront in the wintertime because nothing was happening down there in the wintertime. And so we wanted this to be a year-round project. We also wanted to engage as many people as we possibly could, touch as many people's lives with this as possible. And so we ended up having a group of volunteers, quite a remarkable group of volunteers, the 220 people who stayed with us, who are permanent people who stayed with us for 4 years, building this project, plus other people coming and going, docents, other people were connected to this. So this actually developed into quite an amazing social or sociological phenomenon as much as it was an actual boat building project. So you can see a couple of images here of the boat kind of coming together. And then of course, last spring, as some of you may recall, but it was quite an event. The boat was launched to lots of hoopla, lots of visitors from around the country as well as around the area and so forth. And we had created this boat that was the boat, and this was the intention. It was the boat as close as we could get to it of the boat that DeWitt Clinton himself rode on in the opening of the Erie Canal in 1825. There was another little sidebar of this too, that it was also, and we just showed this off last week when we had the visit of the 200th visit of Lafayette, General Lafayette, who came through Buffalo in the summer of 1825, actually rode on this boat to Tonawanda, and then took a carriage over to Niagara Falls, even before the Erie Canal had been finished. So it's been doing its duty as a replica. We've brought in literally hundreds of people, some of the 20,000 people a year, they say, that arrived, that saw the project or saw the project underway. People from Australia, Siberia, Tasmania. I mean, it's really quite remarkable. So the boat, this was, I think this was the day when we sort of inaugurated the boat last spring. And you can see there's a lot of enthusiasm in that crowd, and many of those people have been following us since, and many of those people have now become engaged with us as we move forward. So now, what's the next step? Well, while we're doing this, Dennis mentioned that in September 24th, which this coming September, they're having the World Canal Conference here. We're going to be sort of a kind of final finale for that conference as they wave us off, and we go and do another reconstruction or revival of a reinterpretation, actually, of the Wedding of the Waters. Now, it's very interesting in the process of building this boat how critical it was that we felt this from the very beginning, that we had to do this thing right. We had to show complete integrity in the building of the boat, building it correctly, using the right materials, using the right designs. We were very scrupulous about trying to do this correctly, and so that kind of ethic, I would say, sort of spilled over into how we dealt with the social and sociological aspects and the political aspects of the canal. So it became early on part of our idea to kind of tell the full narrative of the canal. In other words, the good, the bad, and the ugly. There were a lot of things. I mean, it was triumphal for America, for the young Republic of America, to have done this wonderful thing. That's the common story. But we also discovered or rediscovered the life of the Haudenosaunee and their relationship to the canal. Also the issues of ecology, which the canal, nobody would build a canal today without doing an environmental impact statement. And this was like connecting two bodies of water that have been separated for 20,000 years. You wouldn't do that. Like, what could possibly go wrong with that? So we tried to deal with that, with the Underground Railroad and a lot of the more complex aspects of that. And so that has become part of our whole project, to not only do the physical, teaching people physically how to build the boat and design the boat, the aesthetics and the kind of the Euro-American story, but also these other stories that accompany it. So we are also doing with this project, and we've been doing this. We've already started doing this on when we brought the boat on shore to the canal side this spring. we've started these projects of working with kids and working out programs that we can use the boat as a device for teaching various kinds of things, the skills of woodworking, the ideas of the history that surround this subject, getting them physically involved as part of our hand-to-hand program. We also, of course, began to plan. I mean, we are doing this for literally years. It came to idea came to us early on. It's like, wait, we've got this boat, you know, we got the canal. Why don't we? And the Erie Canal bicentennial is coming up. Why don't we go down and do a reenactment of the 200th anniversary, or commemorate the 200th anniversary of the opening of the Erie Canal? And that the great lesson there is, it's so easy to say that. It's so easy to think what a great idea that is. The reality of it is, once you start doing it, it's like, oh my God, you know, this is a big deal. We thought we were going to sort of be following the state, was going to be leading the way with how to build the, you know, how the Erie Canal was built, and so we'd sort of hop along on that. We found ourselves shoved right up front, right into the middle of it, and it's like, as I've oftentimes said, it's like recreating the Barnum and Bailey circus. I mean, all of the logistics to do this. So we're going to go down the Erie Canal, starting in September, leaving for the World Canal Conference. We're going to 29, I think it's 29 cities now. We added a couple more recently. We've met with all of those people. We've discussed the project with them. We've engaged them on multiple different levels. And this was one of the goals we had from the beginning, was to get as many people involved in this and concerned about this and thinking about this as we possibly could. That went from having people sign the hull with a magic marker early on to talking to the mayor of New York. So this has become an enormous thing, and it's wildly successful beyond our dreams at this part, and we're really only just beginning. So I can kind of leave it at that, but just one little note. We did, in this process last year, we published last summer, we published the first volume of a 2-volume work called The Erie Canal, great title, Volume 1. And Volume 2, Volume 1 is out and has been selling wildly around the community. And also Volume 2 is coming out within the next few weeks, I hope, or so we've been told by the publisher. And in this book, what we're doing is we're really getting into a lot of the other issues these complex issues and these historical issues that we weren't really allowed to, or weren't able of doing, you know, in just the building of the boat itself. So this adds, the books add a great background, a kind of in-depth background on social, theological, all kinds of levels, in trying to understand what the Erie Canal is. And so we're hoping this is going to be the beginning, and it's going to inspire a lot of other writings and a lot of other articles about the Erie Canal as we go through this commemoration. And I will say, one of the notions that we came up with in doing all of this is that we are, particularly since we're trying to tell this full picture of the Erie Canal, we're not celebrating it because there were a lot of bad things that happened. We're commemorating it. We're doing what good history ought to do, which is raise the issues, dig up the artifacts and so forth, look at them, re-examine them in the light of where we are now and the kind of new ideas that we know and the new concepts and new perspectives that we have. So we're commemorating the Erie Canal in this whole project, but we're also at the same time celebrating community, because our whole concept behind this was to reach everybody, get everybody on the same page, the way Buffalo did years ago with the Amistad Project, get as many people talking about this, discussing this, and that is a physical and intellectual way of doing good history. So I'll leave it at that. If there are any questions anyone has, we have a lot of other programs going on this summer. That boat is a very active place. We just did the bicentennial of Lafayette's visit last week. We had over 100 seventh graders on the boat yesterday. So that kind of thing is going to be going on along all summer. So I'll leave it at that.
John, let me jump in here. We have a number of programs that'll be happening over the course of the summer down at Canalside at the boat. So first and foremost, we want to invite everybody down to the commercial slip. Come and see the boat. The boat is amazing. It's a beautiful piece of craftsmanship. It is, I think, so photogenic, as you can see from the picture that's up on the screen. But we are hosting a series of programs that will take place at Canalside that are free and open to the public on all different kinds of topics. This next week, we are hosting Captain Art Cohn, who many of you may have heard of because of his longtime connection with the reproduction boat, the Lois McClure, which has been to Buffalo several times. He will be here talking about his career as a captain and shipwrecks and the voyages of the Lois McClure. We've got dockside demonstrations on specific Saturdays in the morning where people can come down and try different maritime activities with us. We are having a special program in August about the Volume 2 and Volume 1 that John mentioned that we did in cooperation with Western New York Heritage Magazine. We are working in partnership with the Buffalo and Erie County Naval Park and Museum, who are one of our neighbors at the commercial slip. So please do come down and see the boat. We will be doing some sea trials. We'll be making a couple of special appearances with the boat, like up at Canal Fest in Tonawanda. And all of this is in preparation to get ready for the big send-off on September 24th in the morning, when the boat will take off on its monumental journey to New York City. So please do come and visit often. It's a great thing to do in partnership with stopping at the Waterway of Change new exhibits at the Longshed, which the state recently opened to the public. So we'll be there, and we'd be glad to see everyone.
I would just add one thing. When we do take the big trip, I'm sorry, but when we do take the big trip, you'll be able to follow that online, so you can do a virtual travel along with us. So just like DeWitt Clinton.
Here you go. Hey guys, great overview. Thank you very much. Let's generate some questions here around the presentation, and we can do the recognition right at the end of the program. I guess my question is, Jan, this Maritime Center, when you show the history of it and the number, I can't imagine how many people you've affected, young kids, School for the Deaf you were working with. I mean, just a broad range of the community. Expand upon that and maybe mention more. What will people find at the Longshed now as a museum to go to? It's open to the public now. Well,
yes, as I've said, this whole thing we had ideas. We thought this is what might happen. We hoped this was what might happen. And it's kind of like, oh my God, it happened. I mean, people did come down. People said, who's going to go down there? And my response was, my smarty pants response was, well, everybody. Well, sure enough, everybody did come down. And we had people from internationally, which really impressed me. One of the most impressive things is somebody came by, and I realized they had this slightly weird, not Australian accent. They turned out they were from New Zealand, and they'd been in San Francisco. They heard about the boat. They came to Buffalo to see the boat. And I said, well, what about Niagara Falls? He said, well, we might get that later. I thought, yes, there's one for Buffalo. So our idea of creating an icon, are kind of like, not quite the Eiffel Tower, but we've got a thing that now we're hoping will be kind of part of the image of what people think about Buffalo. As far as the kids are concerned, one of the things that I've known from my own experience, and I think probably all of us do, oftentimes when you're like 5, 6, 7, 8, first grade, second grade, third grade, you have some little experience that sort of clicks something in your head. I want to do that. I want to be a rock and roll star. I want to be a fireman or whatever. And I'm very aware of that when the kids come through, and you can tell some of them just light up. They get it. They understand it. And it's like, that's quite thrilling. And other people are like punching each other and doing other kind. So that was really quite exciting. And we worked out getting as many people there as possible. The idea of doing the the graffiti, that was the first person to do that was Kathy Hochul. She wrote the first. She was lieutenant governor at the time. She signed the keel, and we said, well, let's let everybody. This is a democracy. Let everybody sign the keel. Until somebody came by and said, "Where's that graffiti boat?" You know, he had his big marker, and they said, "Okay, we're done with that part of it." But that was at least something. You say, "I signed that boat. I was there when it happened." You know, the room where it happened.
Very, very good. All right, Melissa, do we have any questions coming in from the audience?
Yes, we have a few questions.
Good.
First and foremost, could you talk a little bit more about the trip? Who's going on it? Was it, members of the public? How much did it cost? What do you have to bring on that? What are you bringing on that trip?
Well,
Could you talk a little
well,
more about that?
well, believe me, the boat is too small. We didn't, unlike Noah, who sort of built to, a specific specifications. We had 220 people who actually worked on the boat. I mean, put in 4 years of working on the boat, and of course, they're first in line for deserving to ride on the boat. The boat will not hold that many people at one time, and so we've worked out, and works out well with the people. We worked out a system, or others, I will say, have worked out a system where people can get on at a certain point. I will go from Syracuse to Little Falls. I'll go from Little Falls to Schenectady or whatever. So we have people that are going in and out all of the time. This is a huge logistic issue because we've got, well, this is where the Amtrak station is, so I'm going to get off near that so I can walk over there. So we have people on our staff, fortunately, who might actually enjoy doing this kind of thing, but it's a nightmare for me even to think about it. But we are going to have a crew on the boat. We have the 3 boats going. We have the canal boat. We have the tugboat. The tugboat has a crew of a sort of a semi-permanent crew of 3. I mean, they have to have captain's license and all of the same. Excuse me, the same on the Seneca Chief. There are other people that can do kind of mundane sorts of job. They can be trained on the job to do that. And we have a support boat, which is a captain's licensed boat and so forth. So we're kind of managing all of this. It's like literally managing a fleet. And the other thing that we don't really have a sense of yet is that we're almost frightened that we're going to be followed by a flotilla of people. Why not get in on this? What the tall ships, look like, where trying to get a picture of the actual ship, and there are too many plastic cowboys in between. These are issues, and we're working on these right now. Brian, who was going to be with me here today, he's in New York City with Chelsea. They're working out some of the details of how we're going to dock down there and dealing with lots of other logistic problems. But this, I guess, is part of the fun of it. But it's another whole phase. I mean, we thought, we kind of knew we weren't finished when we finished building the boat. We knew that was really the beginning. That was literally the commencement of the launch, so to speak.
And 2 other logistics I just want to bring up that have been really impressive to me. There is a whole separate set of volunteers who are working with us, who are going to be our land crew, who are going to be meeting the boat as it goes to each of the communities, and are going to help with setup on the land and help with managing the guests. And the third piece of this is the communities along the way. We have met extensively with every single one of them at least once, and plus multiple Zoom calls with some of these folks. And each of the communities is deciding how they want to commemorate this when the boat shows up at their town. So there's that whole logistic of what do they want to do to celebrate this moment in time. Of course, many of the communities along the canal would not exist at all if it wasn't for the canal being built there. So this is a big deal, and we're excited to see what all of these communities come up with as we come along the way.
Another point to add to that was that one of the purposes of the Erie Canal initially was to create a bond of union between not only among the little villages in the state and the settlers of the state, but between the East Coast and the Midwest. And in a sense, what we're doing by celebrating or by commemorating the Erie Canal is reconstructing that. And also with the other dimension about what about the Haudenosaunee, what about the indigenous populations who were displaced by this? How do they feel about it? What do they bring to this? And we've been engaged with them. They're in our book. They're writing articles in our book, but also we're doing a kind of a ceremonial replanting of white pines as we go down. This was at the suggestions of Haudenosaunee leadership. In a sense, symbolically true, but a weak version of it, putting back the forest that we took down. And then the final, we're calling it the gathering of the waters instead of the wetting of the waters, which reflects a kind of an ecological sense. And the final planting of the tree is going to be in New York City, will be watered by that water that we've collected going down the canal. So, I mean, we're no strangers to symbolism here, okay? But it's very important as a way of pulling people into this scene.
Just to loop back to the original question, basically, the public will not be able to get on the boat during the voyage.
Did I
So,
miss that?
you know, if somebody decides they would like to give the Maritime Center $1 million, we would consider it. But the bottom line is that the boat is really quite small and quite limited in how many people can be on. And so I think over the course of the summer, as we're operating out of the commercial slip at Canal side, there may be some opportunities for some rides there. We also have another boat down at Canal side now that's called the Trip, which is a War of 1812 vessel that has recently been launched down at Canal side, which will be available later this summer for charter. So there will be ways for people to get on our boats. It's just the Seneca Chief is really limited in what we're able to do.
And a slight footnote to that is that this is part of our idea to try to do this authenticity. We went through a lot of these issues before, like we could have the boat made out of aluminum, painted to look like it's wood. You know, we'd have to have if we took people on for pay or whatever, which might be a great wedding venue or whatever, then we'd have to have ADA. We'd have to have all kinds of plumbing on it. It wouldn't look like a replica. So, you know, what you got, history or you got modern boat, like which one do you want? So we opted for that, but there will be a lot of opportunities to use the boat and to use the boat in a way that will be safe for modern times. Anyway.
And not to mention the boat after 2025, the boat is not disappearing off the face of the earth. It will be making other statewide voyages. And so different opportunities will probably be possible after 2025.
Yeah.
So you just kind of mentioned it there, but obviously it's going from Buffalo to New York City. Is it then going to live in New York City for a while? Is someone bringing it back? What's the plan?
New York City is worth only one day. No, we're getting there on the 20. We're getting there on the 24th. We're doing our ceremonies and so forth on the 26th. And then we're going back up to Albany. The reason for that is that, well, we need a place for the boat to winter. They will have drained the canal by the time, this is one reason we're leaving in September instead of the original time we left in October. They'll be draining the canal. So we're basically stuck on the Hudson, but the Canal Corp has given us a place to keep the boat. But this gives us the opportunity of coming back next spring when they reflood the canal in April, May. Then we will come back to Buffalo and we'll go through all of those towns along the way. And we're kind of we don't dare even think about this now because it's another whole thing. But the theme coming back might well be about the 250th anniversary of the U.S. of A. So you know, in 1776 to 2026, and that gives us an opportunity to use the boat as a device, as a strategy for talking about the Constitution, talking about what makes us what we are, or what we think we are anyway.
Wow.
And one last question just from the audience. You mentioned the authenticity of the boat, you know, not making it out of aluminum or anything. The original boat was powered by mule power. So what drives it now?
Well, it was originally pulled by horses. A minor distinction. Horses were used. This was a boat that was used kind of like a stagecoach. You'd go like 15 miles, change out horses, go another 50 miles, change out horses, and so on. Later, canal boats actually had used mules because they could be bred smaller and they could fit on the boat and on their own. So they have a spare set in riding on the boat, and they would change out as they moved along. So what we're doing is using the canal, the Churchill, C.L. Churchill tugboat, which is its own historic boat, but not of that era. And we're basically what we call carrying it on the hip. So we go back to the stern of the boat and push on one side. And that allows us to manipulate the whole length of the canal. Now, we have plans in the future, and we might be able to experiment on this summer. We're still learning how to operate all of this. There are long sections of the canal where the bike path, which was the old towpath, is perfectly serviceable. So we can pull it with horses for many miles. And one of the things we would like to do in the future is to plan to do some trips like this, where you go like from Medina to Albion or whatever, and really kind of create the full authentic experience of this. There are a lot of issues to be dealt with that, but we have some horse people who are interested in getting engaged with us on that. And it would be spectacular, even if just to take a few movies of the boat in its full authentic reproduction.
Thank you. Those were all the questions we received, Dennis.
And good questions indeed.
Great.
If the Erie Canal initially put Buffalo on the map, we were a small little village of a couple thousand people, and suddenly,
That's right.
1825, we exploded and really spent the next 100 years or so growing and prospering and making a lot of what was the adage, more millionaires per capita. At the turn of the 19th to 20th century, most of our lives have been spent maybe on the other side of that growth curve, as most Great Lakes cities declined after 1950. But John, as the canal did it then, your efforts are putting Buffalo back in the map consciousness today, for tourists, for people interested in history, for the locals, and as you point out, for people literally around the planet will be coming by to see a very special project. So the Imagine Greater Buffalo Recognition Award is really, I've always envisioned it, those people behind the scenes that are imagining something, and you exemplify this, John. You had a vision back in the 90s, probably before that even, but it started to take fruit. You defended it from all the naysayers, and suddenly we all get to celebrate your perseverance and imagination. So on behalf of everybody here at the library, hosting this program, Imagine Greater Buffalo, you certainly have imagined Greater Buffalo. And so to you and to the organization represented by Anne Conable as president, our great appreciation and recognition goes out to you today.
Well, thank you so much. That's appreciated. On behalf of our whole organization, thank you very much for the recognition.
That's great. All right. Well, great program. As it turns out, we have just one more before summer's end. And life willing, we resume in September. But folks, thank you for joining us. Come back next week, Tuesday, the 17th, here on Zoom, where we'll be joined by Jill McCormick, the Director of Communications and Special Projects at the Chautauqua Institution, in anticipation of Buffalo Day at Chautauqua, the annual Buffalo Day. This will be the 15th annual Buffalo Day at Chautauqua. I remind all our viewers everyone living in the 44 zip codes here in Buffalo between 14201 and 14280, 44 different zip codes. They're free for the day. They and their families are free for the day. So please keep that in mind and join us next week. We'd love to have you there as we finish our season. So I'm Dennis Galucki. Be well and good day.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.